Hello, I am doing this video for a co-op class, part one, for an AQ. I'm hoping that what I share here might actually help a few people um, prepare documents, prepare forms so that their courses can be online and be a little more streamlined and make a little more sense for the teacher and for students and parents and so on. The first thing I would say is I'm gonna actually do three videos. The first one is this one here is the one where I'm going to look at student readiness questionnaire. So getting the information from a form and putting it into a document nicely. The second one, I'm going to use, instead of Form Publisher, which I'm using this time, I'm going to use a different program called, a different add-on for Google Forms called Doc Appender. And that file setup allows you to do something like logs, daily logs, very nicely because it'll pull what you say on a form and add it to one document, layered in, appended below each time. The third video, I'm going to try to kind of bring it all together, bring the two pieces together, and organize it a little bit nicer to make it work. So I'm going to get started now. The first thing I would suggest is I'm using my own account for this. But you're going to want to use, when you really do it, and when I really do this, you're going to want to use your GAPS account if your school board has um, Google Apps for education, because it will all this information will be then confidential and theoretically secure. Um, the next thing I would open up is a Google form, and this one I've started on. I haven't really polished this by any means, but um, I've done a couple things here. I would say definitely title it. Um, don't be afraid to add in the specific timing of the questionnaire. So at spring 2018. Actually, I will change it up here as well. Shouldn't affect anything in, in the long run, but it does help for naming conventions. It does help to be organized as far as that goes. As far as the questions go, I'm basing it a little bit of this from the York Region Co-op Ed student interview form. It's not a bad form. It really looks at readiness, just on a personal level, then on a specifically skill level, and then it looks at concerns with placements. It's nice too. It does include parents and guardians, with questions like, "What do your parents think of your decision to take co-op?" So, not that those are make or break type of questions, but potentially, and certainly, it can be an important piece of the puzzle. Okay, the third sheet that I'm looking at. So Google Drive, have that open with a folder. Um, Name that folder something like co-op class sample. Within there, I have the questionnaire form, the question part up and ready to go. And this is the one that's a little bit tricky, but this is the one that makes it really work. So if you look at this here, this is a normal Google Doc. I just set it up to be a nice space. I'm trying to space it out a little bit so that it looks good. Let's be honest, it doesn't look great. I mean, there's a lot of things I could do. Um, I could play with the table properties quite a bit. Make the tables. I could change the cells. I can change the thickness or the. There's tons of stuff I could do with it to make it look a little better. Oh, that did not make it look better. Wow. But hopefully you get the idea that there are quite a few things you can do to set this up, and don't be afraid to play with that a little bit. Um, Clean it up there. Oh yeah, sweet, an orange box at the top. Why did I do that? Anyway, it's not a big deal. The reason that this format part here is important is these merge signatures, these merge locations. So those two chevrons on both sides of these expressions, the reason those are there is because in these questions on the questionnaire, that is word for word what the question is here. Now you can set it up in different ways to make it a little bit less strenuous, but because you want the question to actually look like a question, and because the question needs to be what you sub it into in this document as, it does need to be the same. So um, hopefully that isn't too confusing. But I'm going to go back and forth between these here. So the questions themselves you can take from here. So I'll go down. What is your understanding? So I'm going to skip that one. Let's go to that one about parents. So what do your parents think of co-op? Let's take that one. So if I was adding that question, I just put it in here, add a question. And you can literally just copy and paste it. I'm going to make it look right though, hopefully. So now I'm going to copy and paste this again. And the reason I do that is because I need to add that here as within the chevrons. Oops, within the chevrons. So there we go. There we go. So now I can put whatever I want here on my actual form. So parent involved, something like that. Because that particular, like the question doesn't actually need to be on there, but this needs to be word for word what is on here. And sorry, I'm going to scoot down and check this question again. Maybe instead of multiple choice, I want a short answer or a paragraph here. If I switch to paragraph, there you go. That will help a little bit. Gets you on the right track. Okay, so now what I do is I go back into, and these are the add-ons that I was talking about. So Doc Appender is the one that I'm going to show in the next video. Form Publisher, this one, when you first open Form Publisher, when you first use it, it will ask you a couple of permission things, but it will come in as a sidebar. And this will also, but right now what I want to do is just make sure, I'm going to check my template. So it's opening up the sidebar, and it will allow me to check this. Okay, so something's not matching perfectly. But I can I can hit refresh and hopefully it doesn't match any question. Edit your template question. Oh, this one doesn't match. So unfortunately, it does have to match. What do your parents, guardians think of your Oh, I think I might have left a space at the end. Yeah, that would wreck it. That might change everything. Just taking away the space there. There we go. Yeah. So little very subtle things like that, like a space at the end of the question. I had a space there, and I didn't have the space um, within the merge here, so it didn't recognize it. It didn't acknowledge that it was matching. So if you have any that are mismatching, it'll tell you sort of where your problem might be, but it's got to match carefully, and that makes this potentially a tedious process. I'm just going to save that, and then I'll show you what happens. This is I mean, hopefully this is the magic, and this is what will make some of you who are looking at this consider using this as an option. So um, if I was giving it to students, this is not the ideal way to present it, because the preview is what they would actually have to fill in. So preview is the little eyeball here, and this is what they would fill in. It looks better in this format. Um, but now I'm going to close this, and I'm going to go back to here. This is a co-op welcome form, co-op welcome sheet. You could send this out in an email just as easily. You could send out that long link, or sorry, the preview long link. But it's probably better just to do something like this, where you go sign up here, and you link on a bigger form that preview, and then when it pops up, it populates that way. So I'm just going to fill this form out as a sample. Charlie, I guess. Date of interview was definitely was there we go, that day. And then how did you find out about co-op? This is one of the most interesting pieces. If you add other to the question, you can allow students to enter on the checkbox part of the form. You can ask friends and aliens. Nice. So what do your parents think of your decision to take co-op? They seem fine. Okay. And then when you submit the form, this is, I guess, the magic of this. I'm going to go back to my Google Drive. Within the folder where you have all of those pieces, the co-op document sheet, remember the one with the little yellow or orange at the top? There's the co-op welcome form. That was the one that I built so you could do this quickly. Within that document, you're going to find something called Form Publishers Output. And these are the forms that I've created. So I created one earlier today, and it looks like this. And I used aliens at that one as well. But more importantly, this is the one that we just did. And notice how the form has the orange, has everything set up the way I would have wanted it. I'm not sure why date of interview didn't work out. Maybe because that date hasn't happened yet. I think that's probably what it is. Anyway, you can see that friends, aliens, if they click lots of things, all of those things would populate within here. Parent involved, they seem fine. So what has essentially happened here is you've taken a nice layout, and you're just merging the stuff from the form into that nice document. Again, the biggest reason I switched to this is years ago I used to use this format. So I just gone back to the form here. Within responses, it's neat too because you can look at the over time answers to your question. So most people answered aliens, some people answered friends. So you could it just gives you some data as well to look at. But more importantly, a couple of years ago, like 08, 09, maybe even, around that time, I was using Google Forms to track other things. And the only output I could get was these bulky spreadsheets. Now, it's not terrible, but for longer text answers, it really does become bulky. And it wasn't until they started using other people created these add-ons that allowed answers to go directly to documents. Actually, there were a couple of programs that were kind of a middle step that would actually just take information from a spreadsheet and turn it into a document. That was also kind of clunky. This is a very slick and effective setup. I think that answers all the questions for this one. Yeah, so I'm going to move into the next interview or into the next concept, and I'm going to stop right there.